Hi people, Moino Wavenberg here again as always and as usual. As you can tell and or see, this is going to be a video labeled Ghost Stories Volume 2. I did a video called Ghost Stories a really long time ago, like lifetimes ago, hypothetically speaking. I think in 2018, so it's been 6 to 7 years. Before I begin, I want to say that apologies if I already brought up stuff like this, maybe through live streams and whatnot, but to my knowledge, I have never officially mentioned any of these things. And simultaneously, it makes for a nice listen, especially those of you that are interested in scary stories that are obviously credible to the fullest of extent. Um, so yeah, let's start off with story number one. Back in the day when I was a security guard, this was before I was an occultist, even like again lifetimes ago. There was, long story short, a location that I had to stand guard, just a rickety, crappy, typical third world looking guardhouse in a location that was notorious in the sense that it was in a bad part of town. It was in an industrial part of town, so you can imagine what kind of degenerates live there and whatnot. The only people that usually live in these kind of neighborhoods are people that literally cannot afford to live anywhere decent, even remotely decent, so they have no other choice but to live in misery and squalor in these industrial based locations. Now, now, in the times that I stood guard there, or that I simply was stationed there, um, as time went by, a couple of other security guards told me that that place is haunted, and that behind that guardhouse specifically lies a huge complex where there have been mishaps here and there, such as a homeless guy being found decapitated and whatnot. And I remember that story. I was like, yeah, this was around think between 2010 and 2015, around that time. Um, and they told me as well that you'll notice that the place is haunted only when you're there alone. You don't notice anything really when you're when you aren't by yourself. So when you're with one other guy or more, no, it's only when you're alone. And I just I just didn't really pay any attention to it. I said to myself, okay, if that's the case, so be it. If not, then it makes no difference to me either way. And the time came when I seriously, um, due to a shortage of manpower and labor overall, which was almost always the case. But specifically pertaining to that location, when I was essentially forced to spend the entirety of the shift all the way until morning time there by myself. So that's essentially between 7 p.m. That was between 7 p.m. and 7 a.m. So these were 12-hour shifts that I essentially committed to contractually. And yeah, I noticed that, no joke. When I was there by myself, I noticed everything that those guys told me. Usually the stuff you hear is somewhat outlandish, so not that I was skeptical, but I said to myself, seeing is believing. And yeah, oh boy, did I see and believe. I remember that I was, for example, lying down, just tired and everything, and I couldn't really sleep properly. Usually you did stuff like sleep on the job because the job is crappy and it's a dead end job and you don't get paid to not sleep. So you're not gonna bust your ass for a company that doesn't appreciate you whatsoever, a so-called company that offers you a so-called form of employment. So again, you know the whole gist of it. But yeah, I noticed all of that. I tried sleeping when I was at that location, when I was at that post, that guard post, and I literally felt constantly, despite the fact that like everything was closed, shutters were closed, windows were closed, thingy was closed, door was closed. I still felt like there was someone watching me, and I just couldn't shake off the feeling. And then at random moments or intervals, I heard like chestnuts falling on the roof in rapid succession, like pop, 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 literally as if someone took like, as if it were essentially raining, but raining chestnuts or at least hail. And you can imagine how, from a neutral perspective, applicable to the average person, how scary that is when there is no such thing taking place, like no rain, no bad weather whatsoever, nothing. There is no tree next to the guardhouse, nothing mention worthy. There is literally and figuratively speaking, no rational explanation for something like that. Because I openly went outside, I walked around the entire location looking for a rational explanation. I crossed the street and I took a look at that guardhouse from like a distance of 5 to 10 meters. Nothing. No rational explanation whatsoever. Nothing. And I was like, wow. And another thing that I noticed that, my colleagues also told me is that it seems almost like, for example, when you're looking at that guardhouse and you're all by yourself, it's like that guardhouse has like a mirage surrounding it, like some kind of wavy energy that makes it so that it has like a pulsating effect. And that's exactly what I saw. So yeah, quite interesting, eh? Now let's mosey on over to story number 2. In that same neighborhood, I repeat, in that same neighborhood, at a different location, there was a time when I was stationed there between 3 p.m., so 3 in the afternoon until 11 p.m. And shit started hitting the fan around 8 p.m. This was like a company that engaged in heavy machinery based repairs and scrap metal salvaging and whatnot. Think of a company that repairs and essentially dismantles heavy equipment based machines like earth movers, bulldozers, and the likes, machines with cranes, etc. These machines that are used, generally speaking, for construction purposes and whatnot, vehicles that are used as such. Yeah, so usually those kind of places, they look like mini hangars, like for airplanes, and they're quite dirty with a lot of motor oil on the ground, and it just goes on, lining the pavement. And I essentially was supposed to stand watch at the administrative office right next to the aforementioned garage. That's simply what we called it, obviously, a garage. Um, and what I'm about to tell you happened around when right after the sunset, essentially 7 p.m., 8 p.m., 9 p.m., essentially 2 hours before a supervisor came by to relieve me and bring me to the location where I was supposed to spend the rest of the night or the rest of the evening. Around 8 or 9 p.m., while I was sitting there, and it's quite closed, like the street is like 10 meters away because the driveway is 10 meters approximately, anywhere between 5 to 10 meters, like 7 meters, 10 meters, what have you. And there is no one there. The place is utterly desolate and abandoned. Be after office hours, then there is no one there, obviously. And there is only one small, like, section after the driveway. You've got the gate, and then you've got a small seating area, and that's where I was simply stationed. And all of a sudden, I started smelling around the aforementioned time slot. I started smelling like really heavy perfume, as if someone that essentially bathed themselves in perfume was standing right next to me. Those kind of people that usually spray almost like a quarter of a bottle of perfume before they go out. They hit the town or whatever they intend on doing, whatever event they intend on attending. They simply douse themselves in that thing. That's what I smelled. And again, as is the case with story 1, I tried looking for a rational explanation. I thought to myself, maybe one of the employees left like a rag that used to belong to a woman or something that still had perfume on it or something. I literally tried coming up with every imaginable explanation, walking around the location and whatnot, looking in every corner to see what the potential cause of that smell can be. But of course, at the same time, I knew better, because I know that, hey, I know what time it is. I know that there is no rational explanation, and I know that it's some kind of annoying entity that that does not have good intentions in mind, and that is essentially pestering me, and not in a good way, in a quite horrific way, like horror movie horrific way. And will you guess, after 15 minutes of smelling that heavy smell, all of a sudden I got like a migraine, one hell of a migraine. My head was like pounding. And I said to myself, oh, look at this crap. Now I'm stuck here with some fucking annoying entity. And again, bear in mind, this was before I was an occultist, so I didn't really have any kind of magical or spiritual or astral protection overall. Nothing mentioned worth yet, at least, or in any case. And I had no other choice but to wait until it was time for the supervisor to come relieve me. At 11 p.m., he came to pick me up. He brought me to the location where I was conventionally stationed. And then when I went home and I took a nap, I woke up around 11 or 12, 11 a.m., 12 p.m. Immediately I contracted a heavy fever, and I felt how hot my body was. I was like, yeah, it's that stupid fucking entity. That's why. In any case, that's all, guys. Until next time. Bye.